فأماتا ما أحيا القرآن وأحيا ما أمات القرآن. They extinguished the livelihood of the Quran in this matter, and what the Quran has put to rest, they instigated, they gave life to. Meaning they contradicted the Quran on both accounts of what to do and what not to do. ثم اختانا في حكمهما. And then at the end, when they came out with their ruling, they betrayed the hukm that was allocated to them by virtue that they said that they would arbitrate this affair in reference to the Quran, which they did not do. فَكِلَاهُمَا لَا يُرْشِدْ وَلَا يُسَدِّدْ. Both of them, this being their case, they cannot show us a way, and that they cannot be precise in this affair or in this matter. فَبَرِئَ اللَّهُ مِنْهُمَا وَرَسُولُهُ وَصَالِحُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Now, Allah is innocent from what they have done. Allah has nothing to do with what they have done. Allah is relieved of what they have done, and so is His Messenger and the Muslim interest. فَاسْتَعِدَّا لِلْجِهَادِ. فَاسْتَعِدُّوا لِلْجِهَادِ. Now be prepared for the military struggle. وَتَأَهَّبُوا لِلْمَصِيرِ. And get ready لِلْمَسِيرِ, for the military journey. Camp, or let us join at the military camp on Monday with the will of Allah. This was the accurate assessment of that arbitration that went foul. But now, what do we have? Al-Imam spoke these words to committed Muslims who lived this struggle since the days of Al-Jamal and Siffin. He wasn't speaking to some people who were inexperienced, to people who had just become Muslims. He was speaking to people who had an Islamic background and an Islamic willpower. And an Imam always used to repeat in the social circles that he was in reference to other Muslims who broke away with him, who are known in Islamic history as Al-KHAWARIJ. He used to say concerning their rhetoric, or concerning their propaganda, كلمة حق يراد بها باطل. A word of truth that conceals an intention of batil, of falsity. And he used to say to them, to the people around him, if these dissidents leave us alone, we will leave them alone. إن سكتوا تركناهم وإن تكلموا حاججناهم. And if they are to oppose us by their words, we will put their words to rest by our evidence. وَإِنْ أَفْسَدُوا قَاتَلْنَاهُمْ. And if they were to take up arms for purposes of instability and chaos, we will fight against them. And here we have probably the first indication in Islamic history of how people can get carried away and become what is called in today's language, I don't like the word, but it's the word that's being used, extremists. At that point, after the Imam spoke to the Islamic constituents of his, and he put them now on a war footing against Muawiyah, something unexpected. Now, in the interim, we have to remind ourselves there were encounters and exchanges between Al-Imam and these dissidents. It wasn't like they were cut off from each other. See, most of the times now, if Muslims disagree with each other, what comes to our mind is they are isolated from each other, because that's what happens in today's real world. You have some Muslims who don't agree with other Muslims, and so there's a big gap between them. There's no talk, there's no communication, there's no conversations, there's no meetings, and there's no exchange of ideas. No, that wasn't the case at that time. With all of this serious disagreement, still people were meeting and giving and taking, exchanging ideas, talking to each other. Because this is the moral character of committed Muslims, regardless of their ijtihad. And as a result of this, many of these dissidents who were in Harawra, this was their breakaway area, they began to return to Al-Kufa and to the Imam. Many of them. Some of them discreetly, and some of them loudly and publicly. And this was a trend that the Imam tried to encourage, because he knew how they felt. Because they harbored the opinion and the ijtihad that he had originally. And as now the Muslims were set on dueling with the breakaway, soon to be king in Damascus, Muawiyah, something unexpectedly happened. And that was that these dissidents, or KHAWARIJ, they killed the son of Khabbab ibn al-Arat, a senior Sahabi of the Prophet. His son was killed by these dissidents, as were many other women